Hi, this is Heidi from Garden Crossings, and I'm going to kind of walk through the greenhouse today and point out some of the perennials that are actually blooming right now. The first one we're going to start here with is the Corabells or Heuchera. This is Toffee Tart, and you can see how it's got those beautiful little white bell flowers. Now obviously on this Heuchera, those aren't the most significant flowers. There are other Heuchera that have nicer looking flowers. But it does have some interest there up on the top, and those flowers are good for the hummingbirds and butterflies. So if you do like to have pollinators in your garden, those would be good for the pollinators. One thing I wanted to point out about this Heuchera is, if you notice, the foliage here at the bottom is a lot darker than the foliage at the top. So with Heuchera, you're going to notice that they're mostly an evergreen plant, but they're going to go through different colors in different seasons. So the dark foliage that you're seeing around here, this is the old foliage from like last summer and winter, and it's a lot darker in color. And all the fresh new foliage has this nice coppery color to it. And if we go in, you can even see there's a little bit of variation there on some of the newer leaves as well. So you do definitely see different colors with the Heuchera in different seasons. This particular one is hardy in part shade to full shade locations. And let me double check the hardiness zone on this. The hardiness zone is zones 4 to 9. One thing too with the DOLCE series is they're a really nice humidity tolerant plant. So for those of you who may be in more humid climates, these tend to do a little bit better than some of the other varieties that are out there. So if you're looking for some interest for your part shade to shade garden, the Toffee Heuchera is a nice new selection for the garden. We're going to go through a bunch of different perennials, some for sun, some for shade, and hopefully maybe there's one here that really will strike a bell with you. The next plant we're featuring here is the Heuchera or Corabells DOLCE Spearmint. And I think with Spearmint, this one here, really you can probably see why it stood out in the greenhouse. These beautiful bell-shaped magenta blooms, and you can just see how prolific they are here on the plant. These are definitely more significant than what the Toffee Tart was, and these are going to be also something hummingbirds and butterflies are going to enjoy in your garden. They bloom virtually all summer long, and you can see the beautiful glossy green foliage. It's almost, the question is, does it have a silver sheen or is it just a nice gloss? Either way, the flower or the foliage is really a nice green color and complements these flowers well. This is hardy in zones 4 to 9, and this particular variety of Heuchera can be grown in full sun to full shade locations. So if you're looking to, add a splash of color to the shade area, you can go with this Heuchera or in the full sun as well. Heuchera are a great plant to do like as a border plant. So you can plant them in mass or grab a bunch of different colors of them and mix and match them throughout the garden. So if you want to create that patchwork of color, this is a great plant to do it with a fantastic foliage color, and then many of them also too have that bonus of the beautiful blooms as well. So one of the more popular perennials that we carry is the Nepeta Cat's Pajamas, and Cat's Pajamas is a compact Nepeta getting 12 to 14 inches tall, and it's hardy in zones 3 to 8. It's a plant that likes to be grown in a full sun location, and you can see how it has these beautiful purple blooms on it. So Nepeta Cat's Pajamas is a long blooming perennial that's perfect in small areas of the landscape. The beautiful indigo blue flowers are produced all the way from the soil to the tip, so the tip to toe flower coverage, and providing this intense splash of color when it's in bloom. What you can do is you can trim the flowers off if you feel like it starts to not be as flowerful. Give it a light trim, and then it will be right back to blooming again and giving you this beautiful purple color in your garden. So I'm going to call it a repeat bloomer in the sense of it blooms. If you give it a light trim, it'll be back at blooming again. So one of the most exciting new perennials that we've added this year is the Alstroemeria. So in the past we've carried Inca Jolie and Inca Ice because those are hardy down here in Michigan, or up here in Michigan, hardy down to zone 6. But we added the full line of the Inca series of Alstroemeria, which most of those are hardy in zones 7 maybe, but for sure like 8 to 10. So this one here is blooming, so I grabbed this. This is the Inca Coral, and it's got these beautiful coral pink blooms. And I would say these blooms are a little bit larger even than what like the Inca Ice is that I grow in my garden. So one thing I'm going to be doing with these, because they're not hardy here in Michigan, is I'm going to be growing them in containers and also in my landscape. I know they're probably not going to overwinter. If they do, it'll be a miracle. But I love the Alstroemeria because they bloom virtually all summer long. So from the point of me getting them planted in the ground until really the first hard frost here in Michigan, which October, November, if I'm lucky, I'm going to have beautiful flowers all summer long. The other nice thing with Alstroemeria is they make a great cut flower. And I mean, you can keep cutting the plant, cutting the stems out, and it just keeps reproducing more. And when you do use them as a cut flower, they usually will last for about 2 weeks in a vase in your home. So this is just an excellent flower to bring color. I know I'm going to probably get all 12, I think there's 12 that we carry. I'm going to get them all planted and just have this beautiful, solid, Alstroemeria field out in one of my gardens. Here we have the Brunnera Queen of Hearts. This is a great shade plant. This gets 16 to 18 inches tall and is hardy in zones 3 to 8. Brunnera are a spring bloomer. You can see how they have these beautiful periwinkle forget-me-not blooms. They do like to be grown in more of a moist type location. They can handle some full sun, but definitely this is not a plant I would plant in an area that's getting like the blazing afternoon sun. So when the flowers are done flowering in the spring, you are left with a beautiful variegated foliage there. It's got that green with a silver overlay. So even when the flowers are finished, the plant still brings a lot of interest into your shade garden. Here we have the Dicentra Pink Diamonds. And this is gets about 12 to 16 inches tall and wide, so it creates a nice clump. The interesting thing here with the pink diamonds is this is a bleeding heart that can be grown in a full sun location. So that was a shocker to me, the full sun, but the other shocker was this plant bloomed all summer long. So the clump just continued to get larger and larger and the blooms just more prolific. Hardy in zones 3 to 9. You can see the beautiful two-tone pink flowers are produced just above this kind of a blue-green fern-like foliage. So kind of really an interesting texture to the foliage as well. It does like to be grown in well-drained soils, and we don't recommend planting this if you have like a clay location. So it's going to be doing better in more of like I said, a well-drained area. But if you're looking for a perennial for full sun that blooms virtually all summer long, Dicentra Pink Diamonds is a great selection. Continuing with the spring bloomers, here we have Heaven Sent. This is a Polemonium or Jacob's Ladder, and you can see it's got this beautiful olive color foliage and the beautiful periwinkle pink bloom, periwinkle pink, whatever, periwinkle purple blooms. This is hardy in zones 3 to 7 and can be grown in full sun to part shade locations. So if you're looking to add a little texture along with beautiful purple flowers, Heaven Sent Jacob's Ladder. Tiarella Cutting Edge is also a great selection for your part shade to full shade gardens. It's got this beautiful serrated foliage with a green with a burgundy there in the middle. And then it has these bottle brush white flowers, another great plant for the pollinators. It gets about 8 to 10 inches tall and then just a little bit taller once the flowers start to flower. Hardy in zones 4 to 9, so good in just about any location here in the United States. Tiarella pair nicely with your Heuchera or your Heucherella. So if you really want to play off the foliage color in the garden, this is one of those plants that you could do so with. And then you can see it's got these beautiful flowers too. So not only the foliage interest, but the great flower interest as well. Here we have the Bergenia Miss Piggy. You can see this one is a little bit of a piggy. Check out these huge flowers. I mean, this little quart pot here is boasting 2 stems of just huge clusters of bubblegum pink flowers. This is a spring blooming perennial. It gets about 16 to 18 inches tall. It does like to be grown in part shade locations, although it can handle sun or shade. Although if you're in the south, I would recommend the part shade to shade type location. Pig squeak, the name, with the thick squeaky leaves if you rub them. When the plant is done flowering, it leaves behind a great clump of just really large glossy green foliage. So a nice plant for shade, part shade, with quite an impressive flower show here. you know, your shade gardens, it's pretty hard to find big boisterous blooms for in the shade. This definitely has those big blooms, and I think you could even use them as a cut flower. I mean, look at those long stems. So a nice plant too to make a cut flower with, and you can see it's a very floriferous bloomer. Hopefully this gave you some spring inspiration, some of these beautiful spring blooming perennials. If you have any questions on any of them, feel free to leave comments below. If you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, be sure to do it. That way you'll be informed of any new great videos that we post. As always, if there's anything you liked in the video that we talked about today, you can order it online at gardencrossings.com, or if you're local to Zeeland, Michigan, head out to our retail garden center. This is Heidi from Garden Crossings.